Eric, how are you, man?
Oh, great. How about you?
Hey, pretty good. Super pumped to have you on. I have a lot of questions, and I'd like to start talking about the Bills first. Do you get used to the cold, or do you just always hate it and fake it?
Well, I'll say this. I don't love the cold, and people all the time now will say, "How are you sensitive to the cold when you played your entire career up in Buffalo?" Because we live in Louisville, Kentucky now, and I'll say just because you deal with it doesn't mean you ultimately like it. Now, the only time during an NFL football game, if you're playing in a really cold game, the only time you really get truly cold during the game is if you catch yourself on the field during a TV timeout. Because on the field or on the sideline, there's heat blowing from both directions. You have the big parka on, the benches are heated. When you're actually playing, your adrenaline's going. It's those TV timeouts that can really get you, though.
Well, I don't know. I don't think I have enough adrenaline. I did Bear Grylls a couple times where we went to Norway. We went to like the mountains in Northern California, and it was like -2. We're hanging off cliffs and jumping off helicopters. And I still, there was never a moment where my adrenaline won out over the cold. I was freezing the entire time. I think in every way possible, Eric, you're just a bigger man than I am.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, you could say that.
Hey, so how hard is it to change positions on the offensive line? And I ask because we've had to see this a bit in a few different situations. With the Rams, with Cincinnati, big line changes. Even with the Chargers, a bit. You had to do this. You had to move center guard center. So how hard is that? Because it seems like it's just one position and one slot over. But what's the difference?
Yeah, there's different nuances with each position. Now, luckily, when I was playing right guard, my right hand was down. Go to center, my right hand is down. When you flip to the opposite side, it can be really tough on some of these tackles and guards. And I've heard it explained, try and use the restroom and wipe with your opposite hand. It's just when you have muscle memory one direction, it can be difficult. And I know it seems like it would be so easy, but you're talking about years of working on movement patterns that you have to completely reverse, and it's not always as easy as it seems.
Do some guys pick it up a lot easier and it's almost the most simple transition, and then others, again, it's like playing golf the opposite hand? I mean, is it that drastic?
I don't know if it'd be as drastic as playing golf with the other hand, but those guys that can do it and adapt very quickly, those guys are probably really good athletes. And I say that most guys on an NFL field are going to be really good athletes, but those superior athletes, they can flip back and forth with more ease than someone who's not quite as athletic.
Obviously, Dable coming from Buffalo, now head coach of the Giants. Did you expect to see that team and that culture turn around and turn around so fast?
No, I didn't because it seemed like they were going to have a similar trajectory to that 2018 Bills team that really struggled. Josh Allen's first season, really they started with Nathan Peterman to start the year, and then Josh Allen takes over. But they had a ton of salary cap trouble and not a ton of talent on the team. And when you looked at the way this team with the Giants is built, it's not far off. You're thinking, hey, we're building towards the future. We're going to try and draft well. Eventually, we'll get our long-term quarterback in there. But this team has come out and played great ball. Brian Dayball is simply out scheming people at times. And to me, it's been fun to watch. I texted Joe Shane and Brian Dayball after the first game when they went for two against the Titans, and they could have tied it and tried to go to overtime, but they both said we wanted to instill that winning mentality. And now I guess it's paid off. But I'll say this, they are playing a brand of football that can win right now, and they're simply pounding people with Saquon Barkley and doing it in so many different ways. We haven't seen the Wildcat use this much in years, but he's using the talent he has up there.
Well, even with Daniel Jones, and last week Daniel Jones threw for 200 and rushed for 100, and it feels like, and you can correct me because you're far more knowledgeable on this than I am. What Daboll's doing is building an offensive system that Jones can thrive in instead of forcing him into a system that already exists. Is there anything to that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what the best coaches do. This offense does not look like the offense that he ran the last 4 years in Buffalo when he had a different set of playmakers on offense. And so he's adapted to it. He has more of a run blocking offensive line as opposed to a pass blocking offensive line. The most talented player on their team is Saquon Barkley. Okay, how do we use this asset? We're going to run the football more. We're going to get in these power sets with an extra offensive lineman, two tight ends on the field, and we're going to let Saquon run the ball both ways. It's fun to watch.
Do you still wish you were playing only because you'd have Josh Allen behind you at center?
You know what? I was given a contract extension before the 2017 season to be that veteran center for whoever the Bills would end up drafting. Now it ends up being Josh Allen, who's an incredible person, incredible player. Yes, I would, I would want to still be playing pro football for many reasons, but Josh Allen would pretty much be up there as one of the top ones. If anything, you pour into a young guy like that, and that's a way that you can leave a legacy in the NFL as well.
Do you watch him and flinch when he decides to run through somebody? I mean, he's a big guy, obviously, and can run, but still, he's the prize. He's the guy that's making that whole offense move. Are you ever like, bro, just get out of bounds or slide?
Yes, all the time, all the time. And I talked to him before a preseason game. I believe it was in 2019 or 2020. And I said, "Hey, the goal today, don't get touched one time. It's a preseason game." And he said, "Sometimes I just like that little bit of contact early. It gets me into the game." I'm like, "Well, we're going to have to break you out of that sometime soon." But I'll say this about Josh Allen, and people get on him about how much he decides to run the ball himself, because Ken Dorsey, their offensive coordinator right now, he's not calling that many designed runs, but Josh Allen will take off out of the pocket. If you completely take that out of his game, maybe he's not as dynamic through the air. And really, you don't want to ever take away any of that competitiveness that makes him so great.
Why does a center have to be so intelligent? Talk dumb guy, because again, I never played offensive line, never played at a level where some of these plays that are called are so crazy. But they always say the center and the quarterback are the two smartest people on the field. What do you have to know a center?
Well, I'll say this, based upon your central location in the offense, and you're generally dictating a lot of the blocking assignments at the line of scrimmage, mainly because you have the best vantage point to be able to tell people on both sides of you. It'd be really hard for the left tackle to communicate all the way across the line. And so, based upon the central location, you are in charge of diagnosing the defense, type of blitz, and then ultimately getting everyone on the page. And so, it requires, I don't want to even say intelligence, but some very quick thinking with that play clock running down in high pressure situations.
If you see a guy blitzing on the right, how do you say to your well, I guess your left tackle that are you able to say right? I'm getting my sides confused. Let's just say someone's blitzing on a side. How do you tell that tackle that there's someone coming? Like, what's the terminology you use?
So it kind of depends on the blocking scheme. Like, you could tell everyone on the line, we're going to slide the entire, like, if we think the left defensive end is dropping and someone's blitzing off the right side, we might slide the entire offensive line that way and leave the running back for that defensive end who's likely dropping. Or it could be some sense where the left side is just man to man, one on one against whoever, and then we're going to slide center over to the right side. It's generally R&L words, rip, Liz, ram, lion. You can get more creative. New York, LA, East and West,
Uh,
you can get more creative with it.
do you have fake audibles? Look, we'll use Audible for this. Do you have like quarterbacks do, where they'll get up and they'll say a bunch of crap and it doesn't mean anything, or like in
All,
baseball? Yeah, do you have fake ones?
always. And we know which ones hit the parabolic mics on TV that are picking up the sound. And so if we said something on a pass play, one of the first run plays of the game, the next game, we're going to throw it out there. We're going to all say it. We want the defense to never be able to trust their ears. And with as great as the broadcasts are nowadays, they can pick up a lot of your calls simply from the broadcast. So yeah, we're giving dummy calls all the time throughout a game.
You went in as a first round pick out of Louisville. And when you go in as a first rounder, is there more of an expectation, even a spoken expectation on you than someone coming in that was drafted in round 3 or 4?
Yeah, I think so. And some of it's spoken and some of it's internal pressure that you put on yourself. But when you become a first round draft pick to an organization, they're saying that we want you to be an integral piece of this moving forward. When I got to the Bills, we ended up being in the longest playoff drought in all of professional sports. So I put a lot of weight on my own shoulders as a first round draft pick of being one of the guys that would get us out of that playoff drought. And thank God we were able to in that 2017 season, which ultimately became our last.
Are the Bills going to win it this year, you think?
I think so. I mean, I do think that they're the best team in the league. I think they're battle tested. That being said, there's just so many factors between now and February. But if you're looking at who's the best team on now,
Yeah.
I like the Bills for sure.
How hard is it to transition? Because I know you've done a great job at this going into the business community as well. You're, I mean, you play at Louisville, you're a freshman All American, you're killing it at every level, and football is then over. It's everything that you've done from probably age 6 until you retire. And now it's like it's spinning you because you have to go and pursue something you've never done before, which is a non-football life. How hard was that for you? And what do you do first when that happens?
Yeah, there's obvious challenges when you're transitioning into something foreign for you, and you gotta take a certain level of humility into all situations, understanding there's so much you don't know about the business world, about the broadcast world, and try to be a constant learner. And really, I had to channel some of my like kind of earlier football journey in this. I was only given one scholarship coming out of high school. I had one scholarship to the University of Louisville. And so kind of that mindset that I took to then become a first round draft pick was just stacking daily wins. What's a winning day in college? A great workout, a great practice, watching film, whatever that may be. Okay, what's it going to look like in this next chapter of life? And part of that is knowing where you want to get to. Like for me, I want to be a rock star dad and husband. I want to succeed in the broadcast world. I want to make sound investments and be successful financially as well. I want to be strong in my faith. Okay, what do I need to do each and every day to stack wins to make that happen? Because I'm not going to be an overnight success in business or broadcasting, just like I was not an overnight success in football.
Stacking wins. I like it because it's very small goals to get the big prize. Because again, every single day, you do it right, all the little ways. Usually, big things happen. Like I can appreciate that outlook. Do you talk about this on your podcast?
I do. I do. I talk about it often. In my podcast, What's Next with Eric Wood, we've had everyone from athletes to entertainers to country music singers to CEOs to pastors. I want to learn from everybody. And I truly do believe you can learn from anybody out there. And something that often comes up, to your point about stacking wins, we often can overestimate what we can get done in a day or a week and way underestimate what we can get done in 1 to 5 years. These big goals seem so unattainable, but as anybody that has built a platform, even like you have, Bobby, it's constant daily wins, stacking them one after the other. And then all of a sudden, now you're sitting in a position where you have millions of people listening to you.
Yeah, I did a show on Saturday night, a stage show. So I do comedy and motivational speaking, and I was talking about training for a triathlon, which I hate. I hate running. I hate running in every way. And when it was like you need to go train to run 10 miles, I don't like that. I can't see 10 miles and go, wow, I could do it. But when I ran tree to tree, before I knew it, 2 miles, 6 miles. I was just running tree to tree, small, small. Look at that
Wow.
tree, go to it. Go to that tree, go to it. Go to that house, go to it. Before I knew it, I was able to do 10 miles because I didn't look at the 10 miles as okay. I got to go out and tackle 10 miles as one big bite. I looked at it as one little. I just stacked wins. That's what I did. I stacked just like you're saying there. That is exactly how I got through some of the most challenging large goals. Was look at it as a lot of little tiny goals, and I can definitely subscribe to your theory there, Eric.
Well, I'll say this. I had uh, Rob O'Neill on my podcast, who was the Navy SEAL who killed Osama bin Laden. He was also there rescuing Captain Phillips. And I asked him how he got through Bud's training. He wasn't a great swimmer. If you look at him, he's not the most physically imposing guy. And he said, early on, I got some great advice to just quit tomorrow. Don't quit today. Make it to breakfast tomorrow. And after breakfast, quit then. And often we will quit just before we get to that goal, or we'll quit too soon. But if you make it tree to tree, or if you just make it to breakfast the next day, all of a sudden you have all that hard work behind you and you're fulfilled.
All right, so you guys check out What's Next with Eric Wood. That's his podcast. Hey, what is your relationship with Dano's Seasoning?
Yeah, so I am part owner of Dano's Seasoning, which is a seasoning company that's based out of Louisville, Kentucky, all natural, no sugar, low sodium, gluten free, all ingredients that you can read and you understand what they are. And for me, I've been on this weight loss journey since leaving the NFL. I played at about 310 pounds. I walk around maybe 245, 250 now. So this goes right in line with that. But I had Dan Oliver on my podcast, Dan Oliver on my podcast. And I loved his story of just perseverance, him starting a seasoning company when he was fired from his dream job, now working at a bar, cooking in the kitchen. And someone said, this is the best chicken I've ever had. What'd you use to cook it with? He takes that and pivots. Um, and really, COVID wrecked his business. He gets on TikTok, gets a couple million TikTok followers, and now he'll do 8 figures in sales this year and doing one heck of a job. So that's a company I've really enjoyed being a part of. And when you transition out of the NFL, you're always looking for that kind of next team, that next locker room, and that Dano's team has been great for me.
One final question for you, Eric. I'm going to go to Tampa. What do you think's the biggest issue going on right now in Tampa with the Bucks and Brady?
Man, it's hard to put your finger on. They don't look very explosive on offense. The big plays aren't there, but something just seems a touch off with Brady in the offense. Defensively, they're not making the big stops that they were the last couple of years, but offensively, there's something just a touch off, and that can happen when there's off-field distractions. And look, a failing marriage and everything that's going on with Tom Brady and who knows what else with other guys, off-field distractions can cause a lot of that. And I feel for those guys in that locker room because that's a tough situation to be in when you have the greatest quarterback of all time and you just can't seem to put it together.
All right, you guys check out What's Next with Eric Wood. And also, I'm going to give you some Dano's seasoning because I'm no sugar. I do no sugar. It's hard, except for on Saturdays because I love sugar. But I'm going to give me some seasoning with no sugar, Dano's seasoning. Eric, I appreciate you. Congratulations on, all the moves after all the moves you made while in the NFL. Your transition has been, really inspiring to see. And thank you for the time today.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me on. And we will make sure we send you some products so you don't have to rush out and get it. We will send you some product, Bobby.
I was already warming up the car. All right, I'll shut it down. Eric Wood. Thank you, Eric. Good to see you, buddy.